First of all, anybody that knows us know that before the actual recording start, we are like just sitting here geeking, and most of the time we're definitely getting at Michael, which has
For no
always
reason, for literally no reason at all.
there's reasons.
There's really no, there
There's
actually isn't.
many reasons actually, but today's reason you told me to shut up.
That's not a good reason. That's like when a kid hits another kid, they said, because I don't like them. That's the kind of reason you gave
That's good enough.
me.
I don't.
So this is another problem that's wrong with our education system.
Ooh.
Hmm.
Um,
What's that Kamala Harris clip that's like, so I see some more educating needs to be done here.
yes, correct.
Oh my gosh.
uh,
No, Michael, tell us what's wrong with the education system.
Tell me
ooh.
what's not wrong.
Ooh,
People keeping their jobs after they some proclivities.
ooh,
That's a big word for Elmo.
big word.
Hey,
Big word. Big word. I will have to say that there is some rights that needs to be wronged, and there are you know, there are issues that I think when they come out, they're just like, what? But that's any of the systems. As we talked about many times here, uh, orchestral things being, orchestral musicians and their problems being put under the rug, things that happen in the education system just swept up under the rug. Everything, I learned this a long time ago. You are so hell bent on people not knowing what type of dirt you doing. But the thing is, everybody knows because
Mm,
everybody is talking. Everybody got a kitchen table to have kitchen table talk.
mm,
Simple. So you trying to hide something that's already on the front street. What are you doing?
mm.
You look dumb. You look dumb.
The questions I have about, if you listened to last week's episode, you heard us kind of talking about where we thought the state of the music world, but a lot of it had to center around education, with all the recent events that have been happening. Um, and every morning it feels like we have a new situation to dig into. And every single time I question how someone could even remotely be interested in their students.
Mm.
And I'm saying this because I will never understand how, as a person, but especially as an educator, that you somehow let yourself cross that boundary to where you are now taking advantage of your student. That is what it is. It is not relationships. You are taking advantage of your students, whether or not they consent to it or not, or they are aware of what they are doing. You are taking advantage of a minor. Or if it's collegiate, you are taking advantage of someone who is below you in terms of like the hierarchy, and there's power dynamics in play. I Whenever these things happen, that's the first thing I think about is I don't understand. The second thing I think about is, Anthony, what you just said of how don't you realize that this is going to come out at some point? How are you not aware? Like we as students ourselves have seen and heard so many things that I'm sure people will never know that we know. Never know that we know. We are observant. Your students see what you are doing. Even if you think you're being slick, we read into it because we have seen you in so many different capacities. We will go Sherlock Holmes to figure it out.
Sherlock Holmes.
Not Sherlock Holmes. I love those like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes where it just stops.
Yes.
He's like, and he's like telling you. I remember I was telling Lauren and Anthony about some trumpet drama in undergrad, and they said, Michael, you don't even know anybody there. How do you know this? I said, baby, it's the word on the street. And the word on the street says this. And if you hear it enough times, baby, and then when you finally get fired for it, I'm like, I called that one coming.
I mean, it's the same thing, and I might have to bleep this person's name out because um, It's really big, but his name rhymes with Fondomes. Are you getting where I'm putting down? Rapper. He was the person who discovered Notorious B.I.G. Had a label.
Oh,
Yeah, we're with you. Yeah.
One thing about it, I'm not gonna get a lawsuit coming to my house.
and,
See, a
and,
cease
and
and
here's
desist.
the thing: don't knock at my door because I will give up his address so quick.
How dare you? Because first of all, what will happen is they're gonna name all three of us because we all relative pitch.
Nope, I deny everything that he just said. I do not accept anything. I do not consent. Consent is key. I do not consent.
Mm.
This is how I do not consent.
Well, I'm just saying. Oh, now he's
It's in your face. Still your
It's
face.
in his face. There's a case, boo. So all I'm saying is what you just said about people talking and things like that. In that case, people have known for years that things have been going on with that man for decades now. Same thing with another person who's a singer who's currently sitting in jail right now because of
Who owned an Atlanta home?
yes, who's sitting in the jail. People have known, and same thing with these educators and musicians. Like people have known for years or whatever, and sometimes it may be a little number of people that know, and sometimes this is a big number. But no matter what, it's going to come out and it's going to come back at you. But I want to take a little different turn at that and pose the question. If you know something like some of these atrocities that we are talking about, do you say something? Even if the person that have been harmed say, please don't say anything.
Mm.
I just want this to be over. I want no type of publicity. I want none of this. I just want to be done with all of this.
It's hard
That's really hard.
for me. Like, I mean, as I'm a university employee and stuff, like mandated reporter and all that things, it's like once I have like, and even if I'm not, if this is away from the campus or anything, the minute I have evidence, yes,
Mm.
like something of that. But if it's just one person saying something, it's hard because then that could blow back on me as well. Does that make sense? It's like if one person says something like, hey, I heard this. Not saying this happened to me. If this happened to me, girl, I got you. But if you're like, I heard this about this person, now that's secondhand because they heard it. So then I'm third hand, you're too far away. But if someone says this happened to me, oh, done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have a student who comes up to you, especially as a university professor, and they're like, this is a situation that is happening to me. That is an automatic report. Like, that is an automatic report. Like, there's no hesitation. If it's a situation where you have a student come to you about another student or another teacher or situation, I can see that one being, because, like, obviously, throughout history, of course, there have been very unfortunate cases where people have been framed, in a certain way that has been really terrible. And we know that those situations happen as well. And so you do have to be very careful with not just this he said, she said of like, I heard this, I heard this, I heard this. I feel like if it was a situation where I heard information about someone who I felt really comfortable being able to go to and say, can I ask you about something that I heard, and I will respect what you want me like to do. Like I would frame it if I was a professor saying, understand that anything you tell me that like I would have to report if it's something of that nature. So, because I would want to give that consent, because what I wouldn't want to do is put someone who was harassed or who was a victim in a situation in a more difficult situation because they're not ready to do that yet. Because you never know what people are doing behind the scenes of building their own cases or working on their own mental health in order to get to the place where they want to talk about. Because as we know, once those cases blow up, you are everywhere. Everyone sees you and they know what happened to you. That is people looking at you with sympathy and every things in their eyes that you don't want to be looked at, and I don't want to do that to someone unless they understand that that is what could possibly happen to them. So that's how I would frame it, is I want to do something, but I only want to do something that is helpful to you. And if you are ready to tell me that, know that I will have to immediately go and report that this happened, you know.
That's something I know, Anthony, I know you're about to talk, but that's something I say in my first studio class. Say, hey, everybody, I am here for you. I can be ears to listen. I can be a shoulder to lean on. I am your professor for the next 4 years to literally help you walk down this path of college. That's hard into your early profession. But I am also a mandated reporter. And what if you tell me something that's like, but I got to get on that laptop, or I have to go find somebody that knows about this and start the process. Mm-hmm. But if college is just hard and you want to talk to me, yes, please do so. My door is always open to all of you because this is why I wanted you to come here. But again, you have to know that I will report. So you have to have that understanding coming in to these conversations.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about getting the help to the people that need the help. And especially when you have matured in age, you realize some things is not a good situation. Because now a high schooler or an early college person, I can think back to when we were in school, how those little dumb little crushes on, oh, I think this teacher's cute, blip, 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 all of that. And when you are that age, you're like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. But when you mature, when you get older and you look back, you're like, what the ew? First of all, that ain't even cute. That ain't even something to joke about. No. So when we say mandated reporter, it's because we see that this is an issue because our brains have developed to see that this is an issue. Where you are now at your age, you might think nothing is wrong, but let me just tell you something wrong. The question that you have to ask yourself is, what is a 36-year-old man have in common with me as a 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old? What do we have in common? Speaking about.
I have no idea. Also, what do you have? Like, do you really have God complex that much? Like, is your God complex that bad to be like, I don't want an equal partner. I need someone who's going to worship the ground I walk on. Like that's the simple story of it. Like, if you're an older person going for anybody that is beneath you in terms of like you teach them or age-wise, like I'm not saying 24 to 21 unless you're your teacher. But yeah. I'm talking about like if that's your teaching dynamic, absolutely not. But like if you are like 36, 35, 38, 32, 18, I think that's half. You cut that thing in half and there has to be something of like you don't understand what it is to be in a relationship. And I'll be the first one to say I don't either. Happily single. We'll stay that way. But I'm not going to search for someone who's just going to be yes or worship me. You need a partner in life to help you grow. And I feel like these people that we see get caught, they just wanted people that were just going to worship them.
And you know what's even the more weirder thing about that? Some of these people have whole husbands, wives,
families.
And the amount of times that going through college and specifically music school, hearing about, oh, don't go study with that professor. He has this going on. That professor over there. Mm-hmm. But my issue is, okay, why are we talking about this behind closed doors? And you're warning me that this professor is doing something wrong. when it seems that everybody knows this, but we are not doing anything to stop this either.
What
And
I
I
like,
know you want to say something about like tenure and this and that. Why are we awarding tenure to people that is violating the standard student teacher code that is in every contract you sign, from teaching from kindergarten all the way up to having the highest position at a university? That is student teacher code 1. But we want to protect that.
the thing is, absolutely, all the way up from like being 17 in college, going through, there were programs you were told to be wary of. There were teachers you were told to be wary of. I was told, oh, maybe wait until you're a little bit older for something like that. And I never understood what that meant. I just thought, oh, maybe it's just older people. Like, because of course, like when you're young and you're a Lauren and like, you're just like, oh, I don't think it's like anything like that's bad is happening. I just assume like it's not for me. And I trust my, advisors enough to like not do it. And then later on to find out that like the students were getting sexually like harassed at this camp and
Mm-hmm.
everyone knew it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like it's the thing is, I feel like there was a whole slew of whenever Me Too was really popping off, where all of these things, especially in the music world, all these names who people I'd been hearing whispering now are like front page and center. And I can very, very, like, truthfully in this moment declare that if I heard that there were things going on within like the realms that I currently was exist within, where I would have to be interacting directly with someone who I knew, I someone would know. I'm so sorry. Whatever glass house y'all have built up around a situation, it I cannot understand how you hear like a new piece of information and you're not like, oh, so this is someone who we know is actively harassing people and we're just going to let them walk around students or even around adults, even if it's a work situation. Why would you feel comfortable walking around knowing that someone who people know, literally know, is doing these things is just there? You know what I mean? Like, I just, at this point, it hasn't been like recently where it's been a situation that's like been brought to me where it's like, oh, it's already been handled, like they're like blacklisted or blah, 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 or, X, Y, and Z. Um, Another thing though, I'm going back to the student part. Sometimes in these cases, they want to play the whole like, oh, the students were really mature, and you'll even see this in TV or movie like depictions of student teacher relationships where the students themselves are portrayed as being like more sophisticated and confident than the other students. They're usually on top of their game, or like they're usually like very often sometimes like top of their class. They're more mature. They're portrayed as more mature, right? And let me tell you, as someone who my mother has claimed I have an old soul and I was like ahead of where I was. I, it doesn't matter how wise I was for my age, how confident I was for my age, how mature beyond my years I was. Never in a, never in a moment would my mom would have, if I tried to bring, if I as a 17, 18, 20-year old child tried to bring home a grown 30 plus something right, like Mom Bell, shout out Mom Bell. No, in no way does a maturity as a student, as a young adult, equate to like, oh, well, they're mature, they can be with a 35-year-old man. Are you insane?
So now that I'm teaching these children college, yeah, the people we think are mature are still not there, baby.
They're not
Like,
there.
I want you to really think they cannot answer an email in correct formatting. You are not mature, baby. You send me blank subject lines. Tell me how you're mature.
You know,
Believe.
I will say the other thing is just think about yourself at that age. Even if you were the more mature type and you look back on yourself like my brain was never developed to be mature, even though I could have presented that way. And I'm gonna take this from something that I heard. Someone told me this. Those predators, they know that for those mature types of people, they can do something what is called love bombing, which is where they praise on all your good things. Every time they see you, every time something, happens, you're so smart, you're so this, you're so mature, you're this. So even to the quote unquote mature 17, 18-year old, you can see that that brain has not been developed to realize that this is some BS that is being spoken to me right now. So that it's completely tearing down these walls. And that is what these predators do. And I was just reading today on Facebook before we started this podcast, and someone was saying how when it is one event, it's usually never only one. So it is not an oopsie that happened. No, these predators, because that's what they are, they're meticulous. They're studying how to make their plan work, how to make it keep going, how to fix this and that for the next victim. So it is never just one. And that's what would be my issue with when we were going through school and hearing, oh, this professor is doing this and this teacher is doing this, and we're not up in arms because it is never just one. Never. And some, as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, they're like, it takes time for my mental health to be better for this before I can actually be, because when a victim comes out, it's a lot. And I think as a society, what we need to start doing is stop this victim blaming because they took some time before they let you know what happened. Because I have been seeing that a lot. Why did they wait so and so many years? Why couldn't they say nothing then? How about you walk into their shoes and see what that's about? The mental health, because all the questions in your head is, well, why did I do that? How did I let this person take over me? How did I do this? All of that, all that negative trauma response that is going through your head, it takes time before I can just freely say that this is what happened to me. So what we have to stop doing is victim blaming. Listen to the story. And if you want to take some anger and put blame on the person that had the power to do this to the person in the first place. That's where the blaming, that's where the anger, that's where all of that energy needs to be placed.
That's I love how people, especially now from the student's perspective, because I feel like sometimes we lapse over it. Not lapse over it, but for this instance, yes, if you are an entering freshman of college, or if you are in high school, and you're saying, let's talk about music. Say you want to go into music and you're in high school, and you see your band directors or choir director and all this other stuff, and you're just you're falling in love with how good they are. And you want to be them. You want to do exactly what they did. That is the first step of going down the dark path. Respect them. Observe how they're doing it. But don't be I want to be exactly them. I want to do everything like them. Don't attach yourself and put them up on a pedestal. Because if you do it then, when you get to college and you're only surrounded by musicians, you're naturally going to gravitate to one, and you're just going to whoop. And so if you're a freshman, and let's say you never had lessons or you weren't in the best department or best school, Now you're in a good school, or you're in a school studying what you want to do, and you have all these people around you, all these creative minds that are all your professors, and they're all great and they're fantastic. Don't worship them. Respect them, admire their work, but don't worship them. Because this is something I had to learn. I was very bad at this. And Anthony and other people helped me. Here's the thing: they put their pants on just like you, and sometimes they fall when they put their pants on, like you do too. Like, girl, you gotta go left foot, or right foot, left foot. If you go both at once, you're gonna fall on your butt. Like, you have to understand they are humans as well. Like, when they stub their toe, like I did, it's gonna hurt. They got to go to urgent care. You know what I mean? They're not like these godlike creatures that are in your presence as your professors. Like, I'm very open and honest, not open and honest. I'm very open with my students about the things I struggle with in terms of music, to let them know, like, we're all on this path of improving. Like, hey, I didn't play as much as I needed to this summer. I know, like y'all are, this is what I'm doing to get back in shape as the semester starts because of this. Like, I'm very like, hey, don't do that to me. Because sometimes I'll hear like little whispers, and I know a lot of professors do, like, oh my God, he's so good. How can he do that? Nope. I've been playing a lot longer than you have. And I've been studying a lot longer than you have. This is your first time ever intently studying this. So do not worship anybody that is better than you. Admire and respect are very different things. Don't worship, admire and respect. And that, I also will think, will help stop these predators because of the mindset of our students having.
Well, if you are looking at someone and thinking that everything they do is perfect and amazing, you will never be able to see the bad. Anything that they do to anyone else or you will come up with an excuse for it. You'll say, "Oh, well, they're so great that this makes sense," right? You have to have those boundaries for yourself, and like exactly like Michael was saying, those boundaries can just sometimes be perspective of going like, this is a really amazing professor. I really admire their work. I respect them for how they go about their work. I do want to know more about them, but I also don't want to become them. I will always thank my undergraduate professor. One time, like, she was like playing like something amazing, and I was just like, I think she may have asked me like, what are you thinking about, or like, what are you trying to sound like with this piece? And I was like, I want to sound like you. And she was like, no. Immediately, like, she was like, no, you want to sound like the best version of yourself. And so in that moment, she helped me disconnect this, like, what my mental, I think that I was a freshman when this was happening, and she helped me set a boundary for myself mentally of like, no, I'm not trying to sound like her. I'm trying to sound like myself. So in a way, it pivots me away from this like trying to get to her, right? Even if in that moment it seems like Michael's saying, it seems so innocent and fine, and like you're just like, I really want to do that. You never know. You could have like a professor like mine who immediately is like, no, you need to think about how you want to grow and develop into your own best self. Or you could have the wrong professor who goes, yes, try to be me, and try to be me and by being around me all the time and by letting me do whatever I want to all the time to you.
To piggyback off you real quick, because it just came in my little noggin. And that is where we see toxic studios. And when someone does come out about their experiences with a professor, if people worship their professor and one person thinks differently, that entire studio is going to flip on them, because they're like, well, they just don't practice enough. Well, they just didn't do what he said. Well, and they just start blaming. No, maybe you just like got so indoctrined.
Mm.
You didn't see that he made very personal remarks to make you play a certain way. Like, that is one thing I will never, never, never do. I would never, even if I do know, which I should not know about your personal life, reach in and say something to get you angry to play a certain way. Reach in to make you change the way you are to play the way I want you to. And then the minute I open the door, I act like nothing ever happened. Baby, that's bullying. Bullying does still exist.
Oh.
It does not go away. And there are some people who will bully you to make a product that they can then go out and sell.
Yeah, those are mind games.
Those are.
And those are a toxic, dangerous mind games that they're doing. And to wrap all that up, the first thing is never idol someone. I believe if you're a Christian-based person, I think one of the deadly sins is idol.
Idol worship.
Now, and just in anything in general, you don't ever want to worship someone, another person, because you never know their full story. Like, no one knows anybody else's full story. You could be married to a person for 40, 50 years and still don't know who the person you is that you done signed your name to. You don't know. So never, ever worship someone, worship the ground that they walk on, because you do not know their 100% tea. Second thing, unfortunately, in music, we break those barriers down because it's such an emotional art, to where it gets to a point where some professors are like, I need you to get this. So they'll try to dig into your brain and things like that. Like, no, you just make me a better musician.
Quickly piggybacking off of that, you don't have to talk about personal things in your student's life when you're teaching them to get the point. You can be like, the opera is like, okay, so imagine you got broken up with and your lover's like leaving you, and like it can be something where you get the emotion of the character, you understand the setting, you understand the emotions of the moment, but you're not forcing them to like think about themselves personally, and you're also not prying into their life. You can even say, oh, I want you to think about a story, come up with a story for yourself. It can be real, it can be not real. You don't have to tell me, but it needs to convey this. It needs to show me this. It needs to feel like this. However you get to so don't, I don't want to hear any excuses of, but we're creatives and we have to understand each other. No, you don't. Not with minors, not with your students.
Nope.
Who you enter into that dynamic with, you do not need to know everything about them. And as a student, hello, you do not need to share everything with these people. You have friends, you have family who you can go do that with. Create a boundary with yourself where you don't feel the need to share your heart with every single adult person in these settings you need to, because you never know who is the one who's going to take advantage of you.
Never do it. And the last thing on that I will have to just say is the story should remain with the person that it is about. As a teacher, you say create your own story. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. If I'm thinking of a story, it is my story. You've never lived my life, so you won't even understand the story. But this is mine. And the last thing I have to say for this episode, though, Michael is old. He stubbed his toe and went to the urgent care. That's old. So that goes for every episode that you set up here and tried to call me old. Yeah, there's your repentance right there. Don't ever try to come for me talking about I'm old. I've never been to the urgent care for my bones, and I done stubbed my little toe and I can't walk with my left foot. Boom. I'm done.
Okay. So when you can read music, then call me.
Oh, and by the way, my mic is still on. When you can actually sing and be on pitch, that's when you can call me and we can have
when you can actually see, then you can call me.
Okay, so here's what we're not going to do, you old 39-year-old, 62.
I know you ain't talking big back trapezoid, getting caught on GTA 5, looking like a Dorito.
Looking thumb, okay? Y'all look like a thumb turning backwards.
You always resort to that.
I actually don't.
Trapezoid.
In my head.
Trapezoid. Win a case.
Win your toe back. Toe.
My toe is working fine now. Win a case.
Evidently, it's not. But anyways,
God.
I just wanted to leave the episode on that. Michael is old, and you know what? Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you later. Bye.